So there were three teams that didn't come out of the locker room until the national anthem was done yesterday. They were the Steelers, the Titans, and the Seattle Seahawks. And Mike Tomlin said something yesterday after the game, or maybe it was actually before the game. And I kind of like what he had to say. I wanted to play it for you. You ready?
We're not participating in the anthem today. Not to be disrespectful to the anthem, to remove ourselves from this circumstance. People shouldn't have to choose. If a guy wants to go about his normal business and participate in the anthem, he shouldn't be forced to choose sides. If a guy feels a need to do something, he shouldn't be separated from his teammate who chooses not to. So we're not participating today. That's our decision. We're going to be 100%. We came here to play a football game. That's our intentions, and we're going to play to win.
I did see that one of their players came to the end of the tunnel at Soldier Field and actually did respect the national anthem. One of the Steelers players, just one, and I forget who it was, came down to the end of the tunnel, stood there for the national anthem, and then went back to be with his team to prepare for the game. Last night, Michelle Tafoya said that the Raiders were planning on doing this, but because of the primetime kickoff, there would have been all kinds of penalties that were involved if the Raiders had stayed inside the locker room. They would have like a unsportsmanlike conduct. They would have been late to the game because there's a tight window, I guess, for the primetime games to get underway as opposed to the regular start time games on Sunday in the National Football League. So the Raiders decided to just go out there, and half of them sat, half of them stood, arms locked. Half of them sat, arms locked. It was a weird day yesterday. And when I was watching football yesterday, I was not aware of the president's comments. And I was like, what's going on? I didn't even know what was going on. And then I had to look into it. And I don't know, take a moment to reflect on what was said. I always thought that the term son of a bitch is a very derogatory term. It's about as derogatory as you can be.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, apparently,
I didn't hear the president's comments.
Apparently he said sons of bitches. If I was an NFL owner, I would tell those sons of bitches to get back out on the field. And that's a very derogatory term that is kind of thrown around a little looser than it should be, because when you call somebody a son of a bitch, you're saying their mom's a bitch. And nobody wants to have their mom referred to as a bitch. So I think I understand the uproar in the National Football League and why there was so much of a big deal made about the national anthem yesterday. In Mike Tomlin saying, okay, we're not going to participate in the anthem, is that saying, that's kind of like saying by not participating in the anthem, you're not going along with the status quo, because the status quo is to always go out there and stand for the national anthem, respect the country that you live in, and get on with the game afterwards. So by staying in the locker room, you're like, well, we're not participating in the anthem today because we don't want to be in the politics realm. You're kind of being in the politics realm by removing yourself from that situation.
Well, what he said to me was, that politics shouldn't be about the game. We're here to play football today. We're not here to make a political statement. So we're going to stay in the locker room. And I guess,
but by staying in the locker room, you're making a political statement.
I guess because in years past, and I think it was Dan Marino that I heard say this on the NFL Network, and this was actually a couple weeks ago. He said, we never used to come out until after the national anthem was over. I'm not sure when it changed, but players and coaches and everybody were in the locker room during this part, and then we used to come out. And so our 805 Reviews poll question today is, do you think we should keep politics out of professional sports? And you could just say yes or no. It's hard to answer just yes or no. I realize that, and that's what Facebook and Twitter is for.
Well, it's good. It's a good question, because these are two things. These are two things that are so entrenched in American culture: sports and politics. I mean, we do sports probably to focus on not having to focus on politics. That's why I go into sports. It's a nice escape.
With the news, with social media, there's just so many opportunities for people to speak up, and I feel that it gets negative. And I just feel like we have more things in common in this country than we disagree on, and we always tend to focus on the negative, and that's what separates us rather than brings us together. And I wish I wish there was a way. I wish somebody would do it. Somebody that would have a lot of followers. I don't know if it's a network. I don't know if it's a social media person. I don't know if it's a celebrity. That somehow we could get back on the page on focusing on the things that we have in common. Without, I'm not saying that we turn a blind eye to the negative things in this world, but I just feel like it's just such a focus.
You love to see one of these NFL owners when somebody disrespects our flag to say, "Get that son of a off the field right now, out." He's fired. He's fired. Some owner's going to do that. He's going to say, "That guy that disrespects our flag, he's fired." And that owner, they don't know it. They don't know it. They're friends of mine, many of them. They don't know. They'll be the most popular person for a week. They'll be the most popular person in this country because that's a total disrespect of our heritage. That's a total disrespect of everything that we stand for, okay? Everything that we stand for.
God. You know, I agree with what he's saying to a certain extent, but his tone and his arrogance and the way he comes about it, it's just like, God, come on, man.
My whole thing is, why does he care? Why does he care? Why does he care? Why does he care? Why did he just? This is a game. This is a sport. And, you know, if this is how you really want to go about it, is this divisive speech the way to go about it? If you really, truly love this country and you want to unite this country, is this divisive speech the way you want to go about it? I love what Vernon Davis had to say. Last night they highlighted this on the Sunday Night Football game. And Vernon Davis said, I'd love to get the invite to the White House because then it would give me an opportunity to sit down and talk to the president and say, hey, you know, maybe there's a better way you can go about doing this, you know, this message. Because I love my country.
There's a better way about how you can open your mouth and have something come out. There's just a better way. You know?
Like maybe have a guy that you run it by.
Yeah, maybe you have
Before
a couple guys you run it by.
Spouting it off.
Bring a woman in too. Just make sure there's you know, I mean, yeah.
Eric Ebron, tight end for the Detroit Lions. How many points did he get you yesterday, Jeremy?
God, shut up. I don't want to talk about
Two?
it. Two.
Maybe because he was worried about politics. He tweeted, does anyone tell Trump to stick to politics like they tell us to stick to sports? Because a lot of people are saying, just stick to sports, man. A lot of people calling Kaepernick. By the way, Colin Kaepernick's message, is it resonating this morning? I got to ask that question.
It's been resonating for quite some time.
Is it resonating this morning?
Yeah, he's definitely he's a civil rights activist now, not a football player.
No, he's not rostered by anybody.
Your thoughts on that? 543-3693. And do you think we should keep politics out of professional sports? Full question brought to you by our friends at 805 Reviews. You can get their app to review anything here on the Central Coast, from going out to eat to hiring a plumber. 805reviews.com, also the website, and where you can get the free app.
Great website, and takes an aggregate of all your favorite review sites and gives you the responses from all of them. It's all in one place. You're not going to get that if you go to one of the review sites. You're just going to get what their users think. This gives you a nice little snapshot of what everybody thinks.
Do you think that we should keep politics out of professional sports? It's the question today. You can get on over there. Wanted to take a few calls as well. Good morning. Go ahead.
Good morning, guys. It's Brian. I don't think that the two can be separated, but to add on to you just said Dan Marino's comments, Vice had Stephen A. Smith. They got a great piece talking about how it changed in 2009 due to paid patriotism.
Paid?
Just to stay in the locker room, it changed in about 2009.
Paid patriotism, meaning, I know that, wasn't there something around that time frame where the United States Service Corps actually sponsored a month of decoration for our troops?
Yeah, it was them, the Department of Defense, and another group. There was like a $50 million package or something.
Right.
It was like so they could sprawl out those huge flags and stuff.
Yeah, so like it was always in October it was going to be breast cancer, and then in November what they were going to do was they switched. They went from everybody wearing pink to everybody wearing camouflage stuff.
Okay.
And it came out that actually our tax dollars went towards the NFL to sponsor this patriotism campaign back.
Which is weird because usually we only pay for stadiums.
We pay for the stadiums and the message that is spread out throughout the stadiums.
Here's my thing: is I know a lot of people can't understand why these players are kneeling or sitting down. Most of them are kneeling now, taking a knee. They can't see that side of them, that they're not disrespecting, the country, the flag. It has nothing to do with that. They're trying to, grab attention for a major cause in this country, and that is equality.
Maybe they don't want their moms being called a bitch. That's why I would take a knee. If I was an NFL player, I would take a knee for that reason right there. I wouldn't have taken a knee up until this Sunday, but then I would have taken a knee.
All jokes aside, people don't understand why they're kneeling. The people don't understand why they're not standing. And so maybe it is a good idea to just keep teams off the field during the national anthem. I wish there was a way that people could understand what they're trying to say. And I don't know if there's a better way to get the message across, because look at all the attention it's garnered.
The problem is... You're saying it's a better idea to keep the teams inside the locker room is to silence the athletes so it doesn't stir up problems?
Well, I'm not saying silence the athletes. They have any platform they want. They can hold a press conference. They can do anything they want to talk about that. They use their social media. They can do whatever they want to do. Just maybe not on game day. Maybe not on, because maybe Eric Ebron would have scored me more than 2 fantasy points yesterday if he wasn't dealing with that.
That's what's important, right? Not that Eric Ebron's mom was called a bitch, but the fact that, he shouldn't have anything to say about it and just stay in the locker room.
No, I just know the real problem is, all joking aside, is people just don't understand. A major population of this country doesn't understand why they're
Remember when we talked about Ted Cruz?
And they can't get it.
Actually working the phones for Donald Trump, and we're like, dude, Ted Cruz, you really sold out. I mean, all that stuff, sticking up for your wife, you don't disrespect me, you don't disrespect my wife.
That's right.
But then when it came down to it, he was working the phones for Trump on election day from Texas, making sure that he rallied the troops and got the vote out there. And we were like, we lost all respect for Ted Cruz when that happened. I would have lost respect for a big portion of NFL football players yesterday if everybody would have just been like, oh, well, let's go ahead and just go on with the sports and not say anything about the fact that we were just personally attacked by the most powerful man in the world. I would have lost a lot of respect for NFL football players. So I'm glad that they made that statement yesterday, because now I can respect them for doing so. That I know that there are people that are willing to fight in this country for what they believe is the right thing. That is what this country is about.
Hi, go ahead. What did you want to say?
Well, I wanted to say it's ridiculous that everybody's all upset about that. There is no respect for our country anymore. If they don't, give respect to our national flag, the people that die and give up their lives for our safety and our future of America, what else is that? What else are they going to give up respect for? They're going to start, vandalizing everything, no respect for our firemen, our policemen, just everybody on duty for our safety.
Is the right way to go about it, though, calling somebody's mom a bitch?
No, I do agree with the way he puts things into words, but he definitely is not a typical politician, and that's what I like about him. He nails it. He gets it right to the point. He's not afraid to tippy-toe around everybody's feelings. He does it like it is.
All right, thanks for the call. Yeah, that's definitely true. There's not a lot of filter there, and people did like that about Donald Trump when he was campaigning. But now that he's president, sometimes, I don't know. Mike's holding on. Mike, what do you want to say?
Hello?
Did we lose you, Mike?
Michael?
Nope.
Michael Thomas.
Go ahead.
Fast.
I don't know if this is true or not, but there's a thing going on Facebook with a kind of like a meme, or however you pronounce it, of a Supreme Court ruling in 1943, and I was just reading it, that no official can force or require anyone to say pledge allegiance, stand, or anything like that. And if they do so, force them to, then it is punishable by law. There's a statute for it. Mm-hmm. So it might be something to look up, but I think what this Cheeto face is doing is really taking things to the extreme just to feed his nationalist little group that's behind him.
All right, thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
Have you ever worked for somebody who's done a poor job in their seat?
Well, I wanted to say it's ridiculous.
Hello?
Sorry, go ahead.
That like maybe middle management or
I've worked for middle managers that I didn't think were very good managers. Yeah.
And then
I got fired by one from the Ram.
Okay, perfect example. That guy was Fat Jason. Was in there?
Fat Jason, yeah.
Fat Jason. He wasn't going about doing some of the things right at work. So what would he do? He would create a distraction. That's what I feel like this whole thing is. Like Donald Trump feels like the pressure's on, and he's not doing a great job. And so now, what's he got to do? He's got to stir it up and create a distraction. And all politicians, I'm not saying this is just Donald Trump, all politicians have done a good job of this in the past.
I get that.
Of where, hey, listen,
I get what you're saying.
I need to go ahead and create a diversion from what is really going on here, because if people start paying attention to what really is going on here, and that's the ineffectiveness of the way the cogs are working in Washington, then if I don't create some kind of diversion, then people are going to focus on that, and it's going to make me look bad. So I'm going to get up there and I'm going to act like I had one too many martinis at a fundraiser.
This is my problem with the whole thing. Is it has become a distraction, and this isn't the real issue. The real issue isn't being addressed. It's now going to be about Donald Trump and what he said, because he used the word son of a bitch, or the tone that he used and what he said. And I understand. I don't agree with it. But that's not the issue here. The issue is inequality. The issue is, sitting during the national anthem. The issue is people are upset about it. And the other issue is, what's next?
It was about that.
No, but it will continue to be about that. It will continue to be about that. No matter what he says or what he does, this is the issue. So how do we fix this issue? Because are we going to sit at national anthems, or are we going to keep teams in the locker room forever? Like, we got to address the issue. And how do we go about finding whatever that next level is, that next step of making things a little bit better? You can't just take a knee during the national anthem for 10, 20 years, and that's going to fix your problem.
Up until Friday, the issue was a select few players in the National Football League were trying to raise awareness to racial inequality. Then Donald Trump calls everybody's mom a bitch.
Not everybody.
Or just the ones that weren't standing up during the national anthem. And then they're like, wait, hold on a second. You just called my mom a bitch. Now it's about you. This has gotten personal. So Donald Trump has basically taken and stolen a platform for racial injustice and made it about himself. So you know what? The narcissist wins again.
Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a off the field right now, out, he's fired?
Yeah, he left it to say, you're fired. And I think he kind of went back to his old TV days.
He hasn't dropped that at all.
And he still loves the fire.
So he likes the fire. He likes the fire card more than Michael Scott does.
Maybe if we just keep politics out of professional sports, it helps. I'm not really sure, but so far 70% of people seem to think that's what we should be doing. Hi, buddy. Thanks for hanging on. What did you want to say?
Son of a bitch is a phrase. Why would we take it to the extremes?
Well, I don't know that it is. I mean, and it's one of those things that I think it's interpretive. If a lot of people, if I call you a son of a bitch, it doesn't mean anything. It rolls off your back. I'm a son.
Right.
If I call you an a-hole, I don't think you're literally a butthole.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I understand that. I understand that. But then, given the tensions of the times, with this whole thing and the way it's the narrative of the story, and the way that he told it, he was like, I wish some of those NFL owners who I'm friends with would tell some of those sons of bitches out there to get back out on the field. There has, for a long time, been this comparison of owner-player relations in the National Football League being as if you work for me, boy, get out there, do your job. You are to be not really paid attention to. And a lot of players don't like that. And
they're making millions.
But they are making millions. But I would not.
It's like that.
They're making millions.
I don't think it's like that, Jeff.
But these guys make.
Are you trying to say they're treating them like slaves?
They make billions. Some NFL players think they're being treated like slaves because they have like a 3-year lifespan in the NFL. That's what the average career is in the NFL, and they are paid not much for what they put their bodies through.
They sign the contract to perform.
Right, yes. They make the decision.
Under a contract and I don't perform, and they tell me to do my job better,
They make the decision.
I do my job better.
But the fact that this conversation even exists, that the fact that some of them feel this way, when he basically says, "My friends are going to tell you sons of bitches to get your asses back out on the field," the optics of the whole situation.
Feelings aren't facts.
They don't sound good. Okay.
Feelings aren't facts, though, right?
I'm sorry. What's that?
Feelings are not facts.
No, feelings are not facts. None of this
doesn't mean it's a factual thing.
None of this is factual. This is all rhetoric. There's nothing that is facts that are built into it. And I believe Brian called in earlier and he said, you know what? Before 2009, nobody stood for the national anthem because the teams were getting ready in the locker room. But then that's when the NFL decided to get in the patriotism business and accept some money from the armed services for some sponsorships and show some patriotism. Well, now that clouded everything. Now that's the only fact that I've heard this morning. Everything else is just rhetoric. But feelings are feelings, and it is what that emotion is what this country is built on. So I'm proud of this country this morning after what happened yesterday on the football fields across America. I am. I'm really proud of this country. Proud of the football players. Not proud of the president. I wish he would be more of a president, but you know what? As an American, he is welcome to his views and opinions, and he said them, and now he's dealing with the repercussions.
Right.
So, I mean, that's just kind of the way it is.
Thanks for the call, buddy.
No problem. Peace.
All right. See you later. I feel like he felt defeated after you got done with him. Did you bully him a little bit?
Did you trump him?
Did you trump
agreed
him?
with him.
Did you trump him right there?
I agree with him. I say there's no facts here. You're right. There is no facts here. And I think it's all ridiculous. And it's much ado about nothing, to be honest with you, because really at the end of the day, how much bearing does any of this have on anything? Maybe it will have a lot more than what I think it does as of right now.
I'm very proud of myself.
It was such a big to-do, and we're making a big to-do of it still today.
543-3693. Those are the numbers to get in. If you want to say something, of course, the poll at KZOZ.com. Do you think we should keep politics out of sports? 70% of people saying yeah right now.
Overwhelmingly, people online in the response where you're actually allowed to give a reasoning behind it. Scott says, actors, singers, sports people, he watches that stuff to get away from politics. And that's the one thing that...
but you can't even get away from it now in sports. It just surrounds us everywhere.
Whose fault is that?
Well, it's the consumer at some point because, people are consuming all this and they're talking about it and they're tweeting about it. And they're commenting on stories about it and it becomes a big thing. But at the end of the day, it's all what we're consumed. That's what.
So we're just supposed to ignore it when the leader of the country makes comments about guys, moms being bitches. I mean, that's who's at fault? Is it the athletes? Is it the president? Is it us as consumers for buying into it?
Like I said earlier, we have a lot more in common than we have not in common, and we tend to focus on the negative. And it'd be great if we could start focusing on some of the things we have in common and working on the things that we don't have in common. But instead, we just like to comment and we just like to throw words, and really, we're not getting anywhere. How do we fix this?
Whose job is that?
How do we fix this? How do we get past? It's all of our jobs. It's humanity. I mean, to work together. Mm-hmm. If you can't work together, you can't live together. Hi, go ahead. What do you want to say?
So you just asked how we fixed it. I'm going to make a suggestion that those guys turn in their football uniforms, put on a military uniform, go out there and see what a day's like, pay them $40,000 a year instead of $4 million or $5 million or $10 million or whatever they make, and trade places. See what they think.
So what you're trying to say is you don't think that these players are grateful for their plot in life, their situation by sitting down during the anthem. But they've come out and said this has nothing to do with that. They're just trying to make a stance for something completely different, that they totally respect everyone who's serving. They respect the country. Can you not see that side of it?
You know what? I really can't. I guess that's just my opinion. I feel like there's probably a better way to go about it. And as for Trump, I feel like he just needs to be the president and just shut his mouth. That's all. He just has no tact, and I feel like he's doing a good job, but he has no tact whatsoever.
He needs to be diplomatic. I'm not talking about the international diplomatic way. I'm talking about in the people of his own country. I mean, this is a guy that is supposed to be on our side. And when you say things on purpose like this in order to create a division, that is what is the most scary part of him being president of the United States of America, because he is trying to light a fire under people's asses. And it happened over the weekend and on the football fields of America yesterday. And where does it escalate beyond this? Who knows?
Where does it escalate this week? I mean, honestly, I think you're right. I think his ego, got the best of him. I think he thought there was going to be a different outcome.
Why is he so angry? Why is he so angry?
NASCAR did stand up, though, and the NASCAR owners did you hear about this side about it all? No. There's a whole other side of this. NASCAR owners have come out and said if there any of his drivers or crew or pit crew or whoever sat down or took a knee or didn't respect the flag the way that they felt they should be, then they would be fired. And so there's a whole nother side of this. It's a whole nother world, too, literally almost, if you think about it, that agrees with the president. So it's what makes this country great is that we can agree and we can voice these things. But I guarantee you that Donald Trump wasn't expecting the backlash that he got. And will more teams this weekend stay in the locker room instead of come out?
I want to see what happens tonight with the Dallas Cowboys. That's what I want to see. I want to see what happens tonight with the Dallas Cowboys.
93.3 KZOZ rocks Jeff and Jeremy in the morning.